let the comeback begin? Pierre Poilievre punches his ticket back to Ottawa. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
All the news you need to know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
Back in the saddle again.
Thank you very much to the great people of Battle River Crowfoot. If I stand before you here today, it is by the grace of God and the good generosity of so many people.
That is the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, Pierre Poilievre, flanked by his wife Anna last night, about an hour after the polls closed in the by-election in Alberta in Battle River Crowfoot. It was an easy win for Poilievre on election night, taking a little more than 80% of the vote, according to the unofficial election results from Elections Canada. While that's not as high a winning percentage as Damien Carrick received in the most recent federal election for the Conservatives, it is a convincing win nonetheless. During his victory speech, Poilievre offered a sample of what we might hear from the new MP for Battle River Crowfoot when he's back in Ottawa and back in the House of Commons.
This incredible region and its amazing people have suffered terribly over the last 10 years. I have seen the main streets that have been hollowed out and the trades workers who are underemployed because there is just not the work, as the federal government has attacked the oil and gas sector and favored foreign producers. This is the truth here in Battle River Crowfoot and in many communities across this country. Over the last 10 years, Liberal policies have sent crime, immigration, housing costs, inflation spiraling out of control. Now, they promised recently that things would be different, but under Mr. Carney and his 157 days in office, they've only gotten worse.
A lot needed to happen for this to happen to Pierre Poilievre after his stunning defeat in the riding of Carleton in the last federal election in late April. He had to find a willing MP recently elected to step aside so a by-election could be held. He found that in Damien Carrick. And he needed the Prime Minister to call that by-election early and not wait 6 months, as Prime Minister Carney could have done. So has that humbled Pierre Poilievre at all? Well, he did choke up a little at one point last night.
Some might have thought it was a burden for me to come right off the campaign trail in a national campaign and go straight to knocking on doors, to traveling throughout a region of 56,000 square kilometers. But I'll tell you something, it was not a burden at all. This has been a privilege. Getting to know the people in this region has been the privilege of my life. In fact, I've had a hell of a lot of fun. Whether it's been at the bronc matches or the rodeos or, walking into a parking lot, some guy I don't even know walks up and offers me a big bag of beef jerky. It doesn't happen in the city. And they also reminded me that the road to success is never a straight line. And most of all, you should never give up in hard times. That whenever hardship strikes, you need to stand up and keep on going. And if you care about something, you don't give up on it when things get difficult or you suffer a setback.
Finishing a distant second to Poilievre's 40,000 votes in this by-election was the independent candidate Bonnie Critchley with a little more than 5,000 votes. The Liberal candidate finished third. The NDP candidate finished fourth. The candidate for the People's Party received just 137 votes. So Poilievre wins in one of the safest Conservative ridings in the country. Now what? Longtime Conservative strategist and commentator Kheiriddin, Vice Chair at Summa Strategies, says Poilievre needs to pick up right where he left off.
I think there's been a bit of a pregnant pause, obviously, in terms of getting him back into the House. It's happening, to your point, Rob, expeditiously compared to when it could have happened. The Prime Minister could have dragged this out much, much longer, and I think that also would have had some negative impacts. But I look at the most recent Abacus data polling. It shows that the Conservatives are only 3 points back from the Liberals nationally, and so it hasn't seemed to diminish at least where Canadians view Conservatives right now. I would say, though, it has probably extended the honeymoon that the new Prime Minister has by, dividing the leader's attention at least somewhat between these local by-election, and then also trying to be that national leader. Though he did, of course, come to the press last week and talk about new legislation that he would be moving forward once he returns to the House. So they're clearly trying to do both at the same time. And I think that we'll have a better estimation of whether or not that's had a long-term impact, his absence from the House and having a seat, probably mid-fall or closer to the end of this year.
Dwayne Brad is a professor of political science at Mount Royal University in Calgary. He says Poilievre needs to make sure he remembers the voters who are sending him back to Ottawa.
And what he has tried to convince voters of is that their local concerns are actually national concerns, whether that is gun rights, whether that is pipelines, because his Achilles heel and where he is being hammered by some Conservatives in the riding is whether, is being a parachute candidate, and that once the election is over on Monday, will they ever see him again? After all, that's one of the reasons he got dumped by the voters of Ottawa Carleton, and that's 30 minutes from where he lived. Battle River Crowfoot is a 4-hour flight and a 2-hour drive from where he lives. So I think he has a strategy of trying to convert local issues to national issues.
Laurie Turnbull, a political science professor from Dalhousie University in Halifax, also thinks Poilievre leaned heavily on national issues, but they are issues that also happen to be important to voters in Battle River Crowfoot.
Pierre Poilievre's messages have largely been focused on national issues. And I think in some ways that doesn't surprise me. I think he's, as Dwayne said, this is not the way he planned to spend his summer, going to try to find a seat somewhere because he didn't manage to keep the one he had. And I think he's wanted to continue to seem relevant on the national scale. He wants to be seen as a competitor to Mark Carney. He wants to take issue with the Prime Minister's handling of the Trump situation, for example, and say he's not getting where he should be fast enough. That sort of thing. And so now he's putting up things like what he's calling the Canadian Sovereignty Act. I think that's what it is. The piece of legislation he says he's going to introduce, and it's about kind of keeping Carney's feet to the fire, promising action on pipelines, and doing this within a year of when Carney became Prime Minister on March 14th. Now, I don't think that bill is ever going to see the light of day, but the point is, I think, to kind of take this issue around building pipelines, for example, and identify it with issues that will matter a lot in his constituency.
Voter turnout was on the high side for a summer by-election. Voter turnout came in at around 60%. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
On News Radio.
The leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, will soon enough be back in Ottawa after winning last night's by-election in the riding of Battle River Crowfoot in Alberta. And the Conservative opposition is already talking about some of its priorities for the coming session of Parliament, which gets going in less than a month's time. Conservative MP Andrew Scheer from Saskatchewan is the House leader for the official opposition. He joins us now. Thanks for joining us again. Hello, Mr. Scheer. Can you hear me?
Sorry, yes, I can. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, good to hear from you today, Mr. Scheer. Must ask you what morale is like for your Conservative caucus after Pierre Poilievre's victory last night in the by-election.
Well, it's a big boost. Pierre's back in the saddle. He's going to be leading the team in the fall, which, he's already demonstrated over the past few years that he's a dynamic leader that can set the agenda on the national stage. So to have a great result, over 80% in a by-election is an incredible endorsement from the people of Battle River Crowfoot. So a big thank you to the voters there. And I'm very excited to have Pierre back leading the team come September 15th.
Okay. So you're from Saskatchewan. I must ask you, what more do you think the Canadian government should be doing to help Western farmers, given the canola tariffs that have been impacting those farmers, the canola tariffs from China?
Well, it's worth pointing out that every aspect of the tariff situation facing Canada has gotten worse under Mark Carney. U.S. tariffs are higher and on more products. And of course, now these Chinese tariffs apply to more aspects of the canola industry. The canola industry is bigger than steel, aluminum, and the auto sector combined. It's a $43 billion industry. It doesn't just produce prosperity for farmers. It's everybody in the ag processing chain, shipping, all kinds of aspects of it. We believe that Mark Carney just hasn't been focused on this. It took him over a day to even respond. So far, no action with meeting with premiers or with ag stakeholder groups. So this is one of the items that we believe should be front and center come the fall. Is how do we support our producers who are going to be hit by this with big drops in the ability to market their products, and then also how do we fight back against these tariffs? How do we stand up for our Canadian economy, make Canada a more attractive place to invest in, so that when countries do slap unjustified tariffs, that it hurts them more than it hurts us. Under Mark Carney and the previous Liberal, the combined Trudeau-Carney government, we've become weaker on the world stage. Our economy has become weaker, fewer people trying to invest into Canada, and that means that it's a lot easier for these countries around the world to slap tariffs on us because it's less of an impact on their own economy.
But do you think, say, the response or the assistance that's being provided to tariff-hit industries, has it been proportionate or disproportionate compared to assistance for steelmakers, aluminum manufacturers, softwood lumber? Is canola being overlooked, do you think?
Well, I do believe that the Carney Liberals have overlooked this, that they have not responded with the same level of concern, attention, action as they have on previous industries. But I also think it's important to look at it. It's like it cannot be a long-term strategy to have tariffs imposed on Canada and then to the only strategy can't be then to just manage the impacts of that. When a country puts tariffs on our products, the first response should be, okay, how can we make our economy more competitive? How can we, if someone's slapping 25% tariffs on Canadian products, how can we help that industry get 25% more efficient, more logistically sound? How can we lower regulatory burdens? How can we lower tax burdens so that if a country's going to put a 25% tariff wall, how can we help our producers, our companies, our workers get over that wall with domestic policy? And that's what we don't see from the Liberal government. Steel workers don't want to have to rely on government assistance to the steel factory. They want to be able to put their markets put their products in other markets. So that's what's been missing from the Liberal government. They have not done a big regulatory review to help companies lower costs. They haven't invested in logistics efficiencies, making our ports more efficient, making our railways more efficient. They certainly haven't done anything on taxation to help our companies compete against other countries around the world, which are fighting to get those investment dollars into their own countries. So we haven't seen that government response making Canada's economy more productive, more efficient, giving our workers that competitive edge. That's been the missing piece since this whole tariff issue started.
All right, Mr. Scheer, just hang tight for a few more minutes, and we'll be right back with a few more questions for you ahead of the resumption of Parliament in a few weeks' time. Andrew Scheer is with us. He's the House Leader for the official opposition, Conservative Member of Parliament, of course. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
We're back with Conservative MP Andrew Scheer, the House Leader for the official opposition. Your party, Mr. Scheer, is planning a full court press in opposition to the government's EV sales mandate. Why?
Oh, well, where do I begin? How much time do you have? So the Liberal government is imposing massive fines on car manufacturers if they sell too many gas or diesel-powered cars starting January of 2026. So that means that if you go in and buy a car or a minivan that suits your family's needs, you could be paying a massive penalty for that. We don't believe that Canadians should be forced to buy cars they don't want or that doesn't suit their needs or fit their lifestyle or their region in Canada. We want to preserve that consumer choice for Canadians. The EV mandate is unfair. It's going to be massively expensive. It's going to hurt the industry, and it's going to push the dream of car ownership out of the hands of so many people. You think back to when you got your first job, maybe you saved up all summer, and you bought a $2,500 used car to go to school and hang out with your friends on the weekend. Those days are going to be over because those kinds of vehicles are going to be $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 as the supply of internal combustion engines dries up.
Okay, and you could go on, I assume, but I want to ask you a few more things. I want to ask you a few more things. The major story in the Toronto Star today: the Liberals are planning full steam ahead for their gun buyback program of so-called assault-style firearms, and willing to spend $740 million, the government says, to do it. And it would apparently be all wrapped up in a year. What do you think about that?
Well, again, this is typical Liberal approach for the last 30 years. They give dangerous and repeat offenders easy bail, putting them back on the streets to commit more violent crimes. And then they turn around to sports shooters, gun collectors, and hunters and say, we're going to ban your guns. The Liberals are going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars taking guns away from people who follow the law. Meanwhile, they're letting dangerous and repeat offenders out on the streets and doing nothing about illegal guns coming in from. So you still there?
Yeah, I'm right here, Mr. Scheer. Sorry, we lost you there for a second.
Yeah, he's got some connection issues here.
That's okay. But again, you're not in favor of this $750 million gun buyback program for all the same reasons you were opposed to it before, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
we're opposed to it before. We believe that letting dangerous and repeat offenders out on easy bail while penalizing hunters and sport shooters is the wrong way to do it. It's going to be massively expensive, waste hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayers' money, and at the same time, the Liberals are still giving easy bail to dangerous and repeat offenders.
Okay. I really appreciate the time on what must be a happy day for you and your Conservative colleagues. I imagine it was probably a late night for some of you last night watching those results come in. Thank you. We'll speak soon.
Thank you. Always appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah. Bye-bye. That is the House leader for the official opposition and a former leader of the Conservative Party of Canada himself, a former Speaker of the House as well. That is Andrew Scheer, MP from Saskatchewan. Coming up, it's our Newsday panel. A little more talk about the by-election win in Battle River Crowfoot and what now for Pierre Poilievre now that he will have a seat back in the House of Commons. Talk a little bit about the political implications of the Air Canada drama. The strike is over, but Labour won't soon forget, I don't think. The government repeatedly using this section in the Labour Code, Section 107, to intervene in a labor dispute. We'll talk about that, the gun buyback program. And Carney not at the White House yesterday. Well, so many European leaders were there for a meeting with Trump and the leader of Ukraine, Zelensky. What does that mean about Canada's standing on the world stage? It's all ahead here on Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
It's time for our Newsday panel today, and it is a great pleasure to be joined by longtime commentator and columnist, Tasha Kheiriddin. How are you, Tasha? Good to hear from you today. That's great. That's great. Always one of my favorite parts of the newspaper is a Kheiriddin column, let me tell you. Geoff Turner, Vice President of Bluesky Strategy Group. How are you, Geoff?
Hey, Rob. Nice to be with you. Hi, Tasha.
Yeah, very good. Hi. Very good. All right, let's get into it. So Pierre Poilievre won the by-election in the riding of Battle River Crowfoot. Geoff Turner, what'd you think of the results?
I think it's pretty much as expected. I mean, I know that we tried to amp this up over the summer. There's lots to report on these days, but not so much during the summer usually. And so I think there was drama being made where there wasn't going to be drama. So he pulled off 80%, which is, close enough to the 82 of the usual MP when he ran in the spring election. Got what he needed, his seat. He'll be back after his 4 months in the wilderness. So nothing really terribly unexpected. I think what we're going to see now, he's been obviously focusing on his local campaign, less national level appearances or sort of directed criticisms of the government only every once in a while over the last couple of months. And so I think we'll start to see him obviously focus 100% back on the happenings of Parliament Hill and bring his usual flavor and style to that. And I think the only thing I'll be watching for is what's evolved from last year. And so far, folks don't seem to think he's evolved much from his persona and his approach of the last 2 years. And I think I think it's a mistake. He's got to change things up if he wants to try to move ahead in this current climate and this current issue set.
Okay. What did you think of the results, Tasha Kheiriddin?
Well, I would echo comments that Geoff made regarding the percentage. It was close enough to the 82, or I thought it was 83 that the previous candidate had. And, that was, no one expected him to lose, certainly not. And I think that the challenge now is really finding a way to oppose without being seen as un-Canadian, because the Canada elbows up agenda of the government is going to continue into the fall. Who knows what's going to happen with CUSMA? Who knows what's going to happen with tariffs? These issues will continue to dominate. And, the challenge here, and Doug Ford actually articulated it. He said, he advised Carney to work with the government, which the opposition traditionally does not do, but work with them to advance the Canadian agenda. Poilievre has promised to bring forward a Canada Sovereignty Act piece of legislation. It remains to be seen exactly what that is, but I suspect it is something to, assert ourselves against our American neighbor, sort of trying to wear that mantle of Captain Canada and not leave it just to Carney, because that's the challenge, is that he has to be seen to stand up for the country, but at the same time, he's got to attack Mark Carney on things the government's doing or not doing. There'll be a budget this fall. The Conservatives will have a lot to say about that. So it's going to be, I think, a really quite spicy season, to be honest with you, in the House of Commons.
Oh, really? Okay. What do you see as priorities for Poilievre now that he will be back in the House of Commons for the fall sitting, based on what you've heard, Geoff?
I think, of course, he'll continue to push for the promised agreement or some sort of resolution to the Canada-U.S. issue. I think Canadians generally know that is a difficult thing to land, and I don't think have been turning on the Prime Minister yet in terms of how he's been handling the situation, but that's just top of mind for everybody, so it has to be top of the agenda. I think their secret weapon, so to speak, will continue to be affordability. That strikes at the heart of most families, most people who of course go to the grocery store or pay rent or a mortgage, and I think that's an issue that has faded from the heights it had over the last 2 years. Doesn't mean that the actual issue's faded. Carney government has some moves, some campaign promises to implement there, like the GST on new homes and those sorts of things we'll see in the budget. But I think that's still a strong point for him that I'm sure that they'll lean into.
Okay. Let me ask you as well. The leadership review that's coming up for Pierre Poilievre in January. Tasha, do you see that as an obstacle for him? Do you think that could present him with any problems?
After the vote in the riding that's geographically the closest to Calgary you could probably get, probably not. I think the decision to hold the convention out west was a strategic one. Going to Calgary in January is not everyone's favorite thing to do, weather-wise, for sure. But it also, I think it shows that the Western base is still very important to Mr. Poilievre, and I think that that will affect, obviously, who shows up will affect the leadership vote outcome. I think a lot will hinge on how he performs in the fall, but I don't think he's in trouble. I think that it's going to be something that, as a party, it's a greater existential question than simply the leader. I think is really where the Conservatives go on these major questions that Geoff brought up: national unity, tariffs, those kinds of propositions. What are they going to bring to the table, and how is that going to be reflected in Poilievre's performance in the fall?
Okay. See, what I've been wondering, I guess, through all of this process that Pierre Poilievre has had to go through after losing for not only the election, but his own riding in Carleton and Ottawa, is whether he would be humbled by all of this, having to find an MP to step down, having to count on the good, I guess, graces of the Prime Minister to call that election when he did and not let it drag on for 6 months, as Prime Minister Carney could have done, and whether he's been humbled at all. Geoff, I don't get the sense you think he's been humbled at all.
I don't think it's a part and parcel of his personality as he presents it. I know, listen, leaders and national figures as they present themselves in public are often different. I don't know because I'm not close enough whether there's been some of that with his internal team, or I'm sure during the by-election, and as we heard a quote in your newscast of him talking about it being the privilege of his life to learn about those communities in his new riding. But I think probably internally whether he will. But he ascribes to the no apologies brand of politics. Again, much like some of the mirror image you see out of the U.S. Republicans, right? No apologies for what we stand for, even if you find it reprehensible. And he, unlike Doug Ford, who you just mentioned, Doug Ford has made a habit of knowing when to apologize and back it up. It actually gets rewarded for it, and that's worked for him in quite a few sticky circumstances. I don't think Pierre Poilievre will ever ascribe to that type of politics, so I don't think he's been humbled that way, but he sure should be smart enough to change tactics and change approaches because the last one wasn't working for him. And I think the last thing I'll say is, as he goes into that convention, I don't think he'll stand any trouble at the convention. The question will be, how much red meat does he have to feed to the base to keep his support strong, and how much does that affect the broader population, the sort of middle voter who all overwhelmingly voted for Mark Carney? How does that affect them in how they are perceiving him over the next 3 or 4 months up until that vote, especially as they're looking to the United States and seeing what sort of an unconstrained hard right political project is starting to look like: secret police detentions, armies in the streets, unapologetic culture war stuff. And so I'm curious how much that might plead him.
Okay, we'll be right back. It's our Newsday panel talking politics today here on News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
To our Newsday panel with commentator and columnist Tasha Kheiriddin and Geoff Turner, Vice President at Bluesky Strategy Group. The Air Canada strike is over. Thank goodness for that. Tentative deal reached early this morning. My goodness, what a difference 24 hours can make. But I would like to know, Tasha, what do you think about how the Carney government handled this situation once again? A federal government using a Section 107 order to intervene in a labor dispute. What do you think about that? It is a trend with a lot of history.
Yeah, I don't think that the government read the room on this one. First of all, there was support among the public, even the flying public, for what Air Canada was doing, because the issue struck very close to home. The issue of not being paid for work, which is the case. They have groundwork they are not paid for. In the industry, I think hit a chord with a lot of people. I also think that the fact they defied the order to go back to work really shows why the government was not in step on this. The employees were so committed to standing up for their labor rights here, they chose to put themselves at risk of fines or even jail to defend them. And that's ultimately the fact they didn't go back was what brought Air Canada back to the table. The binding arbitration the government would have pushed them to might have achieved the same thing, but this was, the fact that they stayed off the job made it impossible for that process to even go ahead. So I think at the end of the day, it's Air Canada Union 1, government 0, and Air Canada, honestly, I think kind of 0 too. Again, the issue of not being paid for your job is something that resonates deeply with people.
Okay. What do you think, Geoff Turner, about how the Carney government handled this Air Canada situation, even though it has a happy ending?
Yeah, I think, listen, I don't disagree necessarily with Tasha in terms of it didn't play the way that they were doing, and they made a power move that didn't ultimately work in unfolding the way it was supposed to, especially with the union not agreeing to go along with it in day one there. However, I'd say, look, the government got what it needed and what it wanted. It got a deal at the table. It got the people back to work. It got the flying public back on their flights and not upset with the government. And that's the end goal here, how they achieved it. was open to them. I do agree, like binding arbitration likely would have solved this problem as well. So I don't think the government was abdicating trying to solve the issue of unpaid work, and I think there is broad agreement to it. But I think on the other hand, what the government was trying to signal was that they were had a low tolerance for significant public disruption, and every government does. And then even the last government, we had these port strikes, we had rail strikes, we had all these things that keep popping up, and inevitably anything that affects the broader public or the broader economy lands right back down on the Prime Minister's desk or the Minister of Labor's desk and said, "You fix it, right? You fix it." And they don't really have the luxury of letting these things play out over weeks of strikes with that kind of public pressure. So they only have a limited number of tools. They use the one they had. Although it didn't work the way they intended or the way the process was supposed to unfold, it worked at getting people back at the table, and it sure worked at getting some kind of an agreement hammered out within 24 hours of that action being taken. And so my position is the government got what it needed. It got people back on the job, and it got their planes back up in the air.
I think, though, it's going to help the Conservatives because, again, they are going for that Labour vote. Maybe it'll put some wind in the sails of the NDP as well, that the government decided to use Section 107, even though these workers aren't considered essential, right? And that's the thing where, if you're Canada today, then what else tomorrow? So I think that politically, I'm not sure if it's a win for the government. We'll see how much more Labour disruption they deal with in their mandate in Ottawa, but I don't think this was a win for them.
Rob, if I can,
go ahead, Geoff.
For just a second. Look, I think the Carney government was also trying to play its first card in what's going to be a long year of labor unrest. They're bringing a 7% cut to the operating budget of the public service. They're looking to redeploy staff. They're looking to cut down on, wasteful spending, as a conservative would call it. And, that's going to bring significant labor tension. However, as we know from the public service strike of barely 2 years ago, there isn't a lot of public sympathy for that, and certainly no public sympathy in the conservative movement. And so, if that's the next round of things that are coming, the Carney government has sort of stood up and said, we're not going to play loose here. We're going to try to get things moving along and resolve situations with whatever tools we have. And so I get the Conservatives want to support, private sector unions and labor trades and certainly flight attendants and public-facing workers are easy to support and are deserving of support. They do good work. They do hard jobs. And so do public servants, but they usually get a lot less support. So I see that being the next battle, and I think they were playing their cards to get set up for that.
All right, interesting. When we come back, the mythical world stage. A lot of European leaders at the White House for a meeting with Trump and Zelensky. Prime Minister Mark Carney, even though Ottawa's really nice this time of year, he was in Ottawa meeting with Doug Ford, which doesn't have the same kind of cachet. What does that say about our standing on the world stage with this particular file? When we come back, I'm Rob Snow with our Newsday panelists, Geoff Turner, Tasha Kheiriddin. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Back with our Newsday panelists today, Tasha Kheiriddin, Geoff Turner. Well, many European leaders were at the White House for a meeting with Donald Trump and President Zelensky of Ukraine. Prime Minister Carney was in Ottawa with Doug Ford. So there have been suggestions. This is because Canada has lost standing on the world stage. We don't get to sit at the grown-ups table. What do you think of that claim, Geoff Turner?
I think nobody cares more about Canada standing on the world stage than Canadian commentators. And so, look, I think of it this way. Run through the principles, okay? So let's start very properly with Ukraine. Ukraine knows Canada has its back. We've demonstrated that. We've continued that relationship. There's no question about Canada's support of Ukraine and that we have their back, especially in terms of reaching a positive and free resolution to that in a way that they agree to unilaterally on their own. That's in their own interest. Number two, the Europeans. The Europeans have their own interest in this. They've invited Ukraine into the European Union, and that's who was at that table with them. And they're the ones who have the most skin in the game from the context of emboldening Putin to go on to more expeditions into Eastern Europe. So they have the most skin in the game from a security context. And then who's the third principle? The United States of America. And I think, do we need to complicate what's already going on by jumping into that bandwagon? Do we really need to be in the room with Donald Trump and bringing our focus beyond our current issues? So I don't think it hurts anybody. And I don't think it. And the last thing I'll say is the Europeans certainly know Canada as a friend as well, and this Prime Minister has unprecedented relationships and bona fides with his counterparts in Europe. So I don't think anybody is missing anything by having Canada not there. And I think Canada has the support of has its support for Ukraine front and center in all the ways that are necessary.
Tasha, what do you think?
Well, you can read it a few ways. I think that there is the argument to make that the war in Ukraine directly impacts Europe in a way it does not impact us, despite our strong support for the principles at stake. Territorially, it is not threatening Canada. It is threatening other countries that are adjacent to or proximate to Russia, who fear that this is just step one in Putin's greater ambitions. So they have more of a stake in it. Second, though, I do think that it does perhaps reflect as well, how Donald Trump sees us. He could have, if he had wanted to, invite Mark Carney. He didn't have very far to go. Are we part of the coalition of the willing when it comes to the Ukraine in general? Absolutely. In fact, today, Global Affairs put out a joint statement with foreign ministers of Nordic countries and Canada on their support to Ukraine. So we're trying to get in the game. Those countries like Finland weren't there either at the table in Washington, but we're trying to all sort of be like, we're the second string in the violin here. But I think that Trump doesn't necessarily, relations with Canada are up and down. It's a constant seesaw with him. So I think that he didn't necessarily want that to overshadow what this was, or take in any space away, or have Carney there, because those questions might be asked then in a press conference. How are things going with
Right.
tariffs with Canada? He didn't want that. So this was just a Europe show, and I think that's the main reason that we weren't there.
Okay. Very good. I love the analysis. Thank you so much. Enjoy what's left of your summer, everyone. Speak soon.
Thank you.
Long enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Geoff Turner, Vice President at Bluesky Strategy Group. Geoff Turner, longtime Liberal, and commentator and columnist Tasha Kheiriddin. I'm Rob Snow. Talkback is coming up next. Going to talk about gun control on Talkback today. With your help, 1-833-668-2577, our call-in line. The latest breaking news is coming up next here on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And today, with your help, we want to get your opinions on gun control. We want to know your honest opinion on whether you think the federal government's gun control measures will have a meaningful impact on gun crime in this country, and whether they really will make our communities safer. What do you think? Honest opinions. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. One of the reasons that we want to get back into this topic today is because of a news story about the federal government's long-delayed, much criticized gun buyback program for so-called assault-style firearms. The Toronto Star is reporting today that the federal government's gun buyback program for those firearms will begin maybe later this year or early next year, and it will all be wrapped up by the end of next year, and it will cost more than $740 million. You heard that right. Almost $750 million. $740 million is the budget. That is all according to an interview that the Toronto Star did with Mark Carney's new public safety minister, Gary Anandasangri. Pardon me. I always have problems with that. My apologies. Gary Anandasangri. We committed to this during the campaign, he said. It's something that Canadians expect us to do, he said, and we're very much looking forward to launching it in the near future. That's in the Toronto Star today. So this means that the Carney government plans to go ahead with its effort to buy back some 2,500 types of firearms that the government has declared to be assault-style firearms. The government right now really doesn't know how many of these firearms are in circulation or how many it will eventually buy back. But according to the news report in the paper today, the estimate is somewhere between 100,000 firearms, but maybe as many as 500,000. And it says the government has so far spent $22 million and collected 12,000 of these firearms. But our questions are, will this make communities safer? Buying back so-called assault-style firearms. Do you think this will decrease the incidence of crimes being committed with firearms? What do you think? Please share your thoughts at 1-833-668-2577. This really began in earnest, this buyback program for these so-called assault-style firearms, following the mass shootings in Portapique, Nova Scotia, back in 2020, those terrible 2 days. It was not long after that event that the government announced it would ban 1,500 models of firearms, what it called assault-style firearms, even though the perpetrator of that massacre owned a lot of firearms, but never in his life did he ever obtain a firearms license. All of his weapons, Gabriel Wortman's weapons, they were all illegally obtained. He was never legally licensed to own any firearms. But the government is going to press ahead with this anyway. Since then, the list of prohibited firearms has expanded to some 2,500 models. As I said, that's according to today's news report. It is a decision that has faced a lot of pushback. The governments of both Saskatchewan and Alberta have spoken out against this. Firearms ownership groups in Canada have spoken out against this. The Toronto Police Association, basically the union that represents police officers in Toronto, has been vocal in criticizing this, saying lawful gun owners are not the problem. The gun crime problem in Canada is gang-related, it's organized crime-related, and what the country needs is stronger bail and parole laws. First Nations and Indigenous groups have spoken out against this. And then there's the price tag here. When this gun buyback program was first announced, it was budgeted at $200 million. And now the latest figure in the news today is that it's $740 million. $740 million is a lot of money, even for the federal government. It's a lot of money that won't be spent on other things, other priorities that people might have. Affordable housing, help for the poor, improving healthcare, old age security, take your pick. It'll be $740 million to buy back these types of firearms. Is that money well spent, or is that money that is going to be well spent, but not really make much of a difference in the gun crime problem in this country? What's your opinion? What would you say? In addition to the assault-style firearms buyback program, the previous Trudeau government said it was banning the sale of handguns in Canada. The new Carney government is not backtracking on that, says it plans to reinforce and expand the handgun ban. That only existing handgun owners are allowed to keep their firearms, can't transfer them except under very limited conditions. Government says it's reviewing licenses to automatically revoke gun licenses for individuals convicted of violent crimes, especially intimate partner violence. I was under the impression that was already the case. It says it will have the RCMP take over responsibility, it says, for classifying new firearms models, saying that authority largely rests with the gun industry now. Said now it's to crack down on ghost guns. Government says it plans to increase the penalties for gun smuggling. Says it's giving CBSA and the RCMP more money to crack down on gun smuggling at the border. But the critics say the key parts of the federal government's gun control measures will be ineffective and that they are misguided because they are going after law-abiding gun owners and failing to address the real problem with gun crime in this country: criminals using smuggled stolen guns to commit violent crimes. They point to crime statistics showing that despite bans on so-called assault-style weapons, bans on handguns, violent crime is up more than 50% in the last 10 years. Gun crime up 115% over the last 10 years. The gun buyback program, $740 million to be completed in a little more than a year. A signature policy on gun control for the Carney government. Do you think it will make our communities safer? And will it reduce gun crime in Canada? Yes? No? Why? Why not? Phone lines open right now, 1-833-668-2577. If you've never called before, just mention that. We'll make your call a priority. This is Talkback. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The federal government plans to spend $740 million on a gun buyback program for some 2,500 models of banned assault-style firearms. We're talking about gun control today. We're asking, do you think the Carney government's gun control measures will make communities safer and reduce gun crime in Canada? Yes, no, why not? 1-833-668-2577. Let's go to Paul in Cambridge up first today. Hello, Paul. You're on the line. What's your opinion here?
Well, first off, a little bit of background on myself. I am an old guy, retired. I have owned firearms most of my life. I own firearms that I use for hunting. Now, a lot of people don't like hunting, but they can rest easy. I'm not a very good hunter. I haven't had a whole lot of success at big game. As a matter of fact, no big game. So for those of you who don't like hunting, you can leave that part of it alone. I own shotguns. Usually I go out and I go trap shooting. And when I go trap shooting, I like to go on a Tuesday afternoon because it's with a group of old guys like myself, most of them retired, and we go out and we have a good time. Sundays it's a little busier with all the young people, but that's what I do for a hobby. I also own handguns. Okay? I shoot competitively. Now, I haven't been doing a lot lately because my health isn't all that great, and I just can't do all the running around like I used to. But when I shot handguns in competition, the people that I was shooting against, a lot of them were just like myself. They were in business. There were first responders. There was police officers. There was jail guards. There was ambulance drivers, paramedics, all kinds of cops participating in this, and then just ordinary people like myself. Now, I'm coming up on 70 years old. I have never been arrested in my life. I have never been charged with anything. My guns are all properly stored. They're locked up, and not one has ever been fired in anger. They are for target shooting. They are for hunting. They are for having fun. And that is it. Okay. And the government, as far as buying back, I never bought a single one of these guns from the federal government. So how can they buy back something that they never owned?
Okay, well, they're doing this because they say they want to make communities safer and they want to get tough on gun crime. Do you think this will be effective?
Meanwhile, we have people being shot. There was a young kid shot in his bed in Toronto the other day.
That's right.
I don't think that was a legal firearms owner.
Okay.
So you're going after the wrong
people. Okay, fair enough. Thank you, Paul in Cambridge. Thank you. Let's take Jim's call here in Halifax. You're up next, Jim. What's your opinion, Jim, on the gun control issue?
First of all, I don't think it's going to make a difference. My own opinion is right now, isn't it funny that we're warming up this chestnut again? I think it might be a little bait and switch by Mr. Carney's government. Like, have a look at what I'm doing over here, and never mind what else is happening or what I failed to do. But I will comment on it. I, like Paul, am an avid shooter. I'm a competitive shooter. I don't do the 3-gun competition. I do a little bit of handgun shooting. I'm also a big game hunter in this province, and I've traveled out of this province for big game. All of my firearms are registered. they're all safely secured. And I often joke with friends of mine who say, aren't you worried, what if somebody breaks into your house? Well, I've got a better chance of maiming you with a can of soup than I do with a firearm, because it would take me far too long to get at them, given all the restrictions and the regulations that I have to do. Now, $740 million, Rob, is that on top of what they've already spent on this useless program?
It just says budgeted at $740 million. Supposed to cost $740 million.
I think, I question their figures. I think it's more than that. I think they've already spent about $90 million to accomplish nothing. Now, here's where I see the failure. Who's going to regulate this? Now, the RCMP, I heard you say earlier, and I'll tell you a little story, and this happened to me personally. A Canadian firearm manufacturer came out with a new brand of a firearm, and they vetted it through all of the necessary regulatory bodies, including the RCMP, and said, here's the firearm, here's what it can do, here's what we want to do with it. We want to sell it. Now, this is while this current gun ban is on. The RCMP came back and said, yeah, no problem. And as soon as they went to market with it, the RCMP got the authority to regulate things. They said, no longer. So I purchased this firearm, and I've never been able to take it out of my safe. I've got that one and 3 or 4 others that I can no longer use because of these silly prohibitions. Now, we all know assault style. What the heck does that mean? We haven't been legally able to own an automatic firearm in Canada since 1975. If you had one before then, you are now a collector, and you have a prohibited license. Every day, and I'm oversimplifying this, Rob, every day there's somebody in Ottawa that pushes a computer button and vets everybody out there that's got a registered firearms license.
Yes, I've heard that. Yes, right. I've heard that.
So
you're like the previous caller. You think just because we're tight on time, you think it will be ineffective, this measure, as a gun control measure?
Absolutely. The RCMP already let us down with Gabriel Wortman and another gentleman that unfortunately killed himself and his family. They already let us down. They don't
we gotta go. We gotta go.
Themselves.
We gotta go. We're out of time. I appreciate your call, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your opinion, your insight. 1-833-668-2577. The gun buyback program for assault-style firearms. Have your say on that. $740 million. They say that's going to cost. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Federal government is going to spend $740 million on its assault-style firearms buyback program. It's going to be wrapped up in a year, it says. Do you think these gun control measures will make our community safer and reduce gun crime in Canada? That's our topic for Talkback today. Greg in Kitchener is up next. Greg, you're on the air. Hi, Greg. What's your opinion?
I'm a licensed firearm owner, unrestricted and restricted. And all the guns in my safe are secure.
Mm-hmm.
2 quick points.
Okay.
99.999999. You can add as many decimals as you want. Legal firearm owners are not the source of crime. It's all the smuggled guns from the United States. And number 2, I bought these guns with my own money.
Yes.
And now, through my taxes or however it happens, the government is going to take my money to take my guns away. How does that make any sense?
Okay. Well, the government is doing it, it says, because it wants to make communities safer, and it wants to reduce gun crime. And this is one of its measures to do that.
To my first point, 99.999 and whatever, legal gun owners are not the source of crime.
Okay. Okay.
So,
well, what would make communities safer? What would reduce gun crime in Canada then? If not this, then what?
if you're caught with an illegal gun, you serve 5 years automatically.
Right. Like a mandatory minimum sentence, for example.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We used to have that. It was ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. So you'd have to.
Well, welcome to communist Canada.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, I'm just telling you the Harper government tried to do that, impose mandatory minimum sentences for crimes committed with guns, and it was ruled unconstitutional. It was appealed all the way to the Supreme Court, ruled unconstitutional. Cruel and unusual punishment, in fact. 5 years in prison for committing a crime with a gun. All right, Greg, just so you know. Thank you. Bye-bye. Off and running here. Gun control is the topic today, gun control. Have your say. Especially on the assault-style firearms news today, $740 million you're going to spend on that buyback program for all of those now banned models of firearms. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Talking about gun control today, the federal government plans to spend $740 million on a gun buyback program for banned assault-style firearms. It also plans to reinforce and expand the so-called handgun ban. We're asking, do you think these gun control measures will make our community safer and reduce gun crime in Canada? Yes, no, why not? Have your say on Talkback. 3 lines available. The wait won't be too long at all. 1-833-668-2577 as we go to Halifax and speak with Julie on the line. Hi, Julie.
Hi.
Hi, Julie.
How are you?
What's your opinion? I'm just great. Thank you. What's your opinion here?
Well, I think it's just another example of the government imposing rules on people who are rule followers in hopes that it's going to change people who are not rule followers. So I don't think it's going to make a difference to make it safer because it's really only a program that's going to be open for people who are going to come in legally with what once was probably a legal gun and is now a banned gun or something they came upon. And it's using tax money that could be used for being tougher on crime and actually stopping some of it. But it makes me question who's really in charge when we see that the government continues to put so much money into services like this, where, I mean, that's a huge amount of money. And really it's just targeting people who are going to come in following laws and are law-abiding. And no one who is has a record or is at risk for using it in an illegal way is going to bring it in and say, I need some money. Give it to me. It goes hand in hand with illegal things that they're going to keep that. I recently, I'm nearing 50 myself, and I just recently completed the course to get my firearm safety and acquisition card, just so I can inherit guns from family members later on, because you can't legally have them unless you have that course. And it was a long course. Full day of training, and you have to pass a test. You can't just not do it. You have to actually do it well.
They do a background check on you, right? They do a background check on you. Yeah.
You have to have your spouse vouch for you as well. And I'm the kind of person that they're looking at to bring in some guns or things like that. But I don't. Obviously, I'm a law-abiding citizen, so I'm not going to have one of those. Because my licenses will not allow me to have one of those. So law-abiding citizens are following the rules. And I don't think it's going to make anything any safer because the people that we really need to be targeting are the people that are doing it illegally. And they're not going to come in and say, here you go. Because they're often tied to other things, too. They're not going to come into the police office with a gun.
Right, yeah.
Because they're not, the police aren't going to say, oh, well, we're going to forget everything else you did, if you're somebody they're looking for.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. I will say the government says, it's not our only effort, but this, at $740 million is one of its signature policies, maybe one of the most expensive gun control measures in Canadian history, but the government has said we're going to crack down on ghost guns. We're going to increase penalties for gun smuggling. We're giving the CVSA and the RCMP more funding so they can get tough on gun smuggling at the border. I mean, it's a suite of measures. It's just this is kind of the centerpiece of it, with the big price tag of $750 million. And at that price, it's fair to question, will it have the desired effect of making communities safer and reduce the incidence of gun crime? What would you say? Linda, thank you. Linda, you're on the air from Southern Alberta. Go ahead, Linda.
Hello, yes. I'm looking at it from a different aspect. I don't think they're interested in the gun thing. I just wonder who's pocketing all the money from this big program that they're putting through. Who's benefiting from processing this program? You know, to me, it smacks like that Drive app that they had, and all of a sudden they look at all this money spent, gone, nothing done. So, you know, all the people that are phoning you in are saying, we're law-abiding. We're the ones that they're targeting. So if that's not going to work, you know, because you're taking away from the people that are law-abiding and not targeting the ones who are not. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of wonder about the whole program itself.
Okay. And you think there might be something, I mean, it sounds like you think there might be something nefarious going on, that somebody's pockets are being lined,
you know, we're supporting you and now we're supporting you back. So I just think it's way too much money for that. Why don't they put all of this money into controlling the crime and then, make that work first?
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your opinion. We have time to take Robert's call, I believe, in Calgary up next. Hello, Robert. You're on the line, Robert.
Hello.
Hi, Robert. Go ahead.
I'm here. I've come into the show late, and I have not heard everything everybody else has said. But the question I would ask is there a possibility this buyback will have any beneficial effect overall? And I would base that comment on the fact that, to the best of my knowledge, the vast majority of gun crime in Canada is handguns. People do not walk into a store and rob it with a long gun. I can't say it never happened, but it would be a rare occurrence because it's hard to conceal it while you're going to the store.
Right.
And I'm not convinced removing the long guns is going to solve anything. Another quick comment. They talked about the guys that have machine gun licenses. That will no longer exist in the very near future, simply because that happened in 1975. Most of these people were in their 30s then. They're now in their 80s, and their license cannot be transferred to anyone. Their kids can't inherit it. They can't do anything. So when they die, they have to give up. They're
completely restricted, right? Completely prohibited, I guess, right? Yeah,
and it's going to be it's only going to be another few years, 10, 12 years, before they're pretty well all gone. And nobody will have one. So there's no need to do much work on that one. You could put a measure similar to that in for some of these restricted guns as well, so that eventually they just, if you can't sell them, can't buy them, and your license can't be transferred.
So the minister is saying, look, over the next year, we're going to spend $740 million. We're going to buy back as many of these assault-style firearms as we can in this country. There's 2,500 models of them banned. Do you think that will have any meaningful impact on gun crime in Canada? What would you say? Yes or no?
I would say almost none.
Almost none. Okay, thank you. And you could have your say on this topic. Lots of lines available there. 1-833-668-2577. We're talking about gun control today on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Do you think the Carney government's gun control measures will make communities safer, reduce gun crime in Canada? The latest news twist in this. A $740 million gun buyback program to be finished in about a year's time for all of those banned models of what the government calls assault-style firearms. Have your say on that, please. Ken in Cambridge is up next on Talkback. Thanks for calling, Ken. What's your opinion here?
Hi, Rob. How are you today?
Just great, Ken. Thank you. Go ahead.
We do need mandatory minimums. It's called a deterrent. The reason why I'm a good law-abiding citizen is because I don't want to go to jail. Knowing what I know about the black market and crime and whatever, I could easily slide and become one of those people or whatever and slip through the cracks. Now, criminals, they only get a slap on the wrist. It's catch and release. I wouldn't want to be a police officer out there. Like, how debilitating is that you catch one guy and then you see him out on the streets the very next day? The guns that are being used are illegal guns. They're being smuggled in. They're being used by criminals. They're being used for criminal acts, to kill people, to horrify people, to terrorize people, to steal. So these people need to know that if I'm caught doing that, if I'm caught with an illegal gun, it's 5 years. And there is no probationary period. There's no off for good measures or anything. It's like you kill a person, you destroy their whole family's lives, and they get out in 3 years now for good behavior or whatnot. Like the $740 million that the government has proposed, where did they get this number from? Where did they get that number from? I would love to know. Because
that's the Department of Public Safety's estimate on what it will cost. I guess they have an estimate of how many of these firearms are in circulation. They've done a rough estimate of how much it's going to cost to buy them back, and they come up with this, include all the administration and everything. And that's how much it's going to be, right. $740 million. A lot of money. When they first started out back 5 years ago, it was supposed to only cost $200 million. Right. So it's more than tripled, right?
I think it could be spent way better elsewhere. You listen to your other listeners and your other callers, and they're exactly right. Us that have our PALs, we're not the ones causing the crime. We're not the ones going out there. And for the Supreme Court to rule that it's a cruel and unusual punishment, that's what prison is. It's a deterrent to be a good member of society, not a Club Med like it is today. So, I mean, I think we got to get tougher on crime. That they got to know. Now, the people that are doing it are probably from marginalized communities. I don't see people with very good careers and, are earning $60,000 or $80,000 plus a year going out and committing these crimes. These are people that need the money. And in some very cases, they're going and they're stealing just probably to feed their families. Not for drug addictions, all of them, and not for whatever nefarious actions. But, I mean, we've still got to come down on these people. It's like fentanyl. Like, if you're caught selling fentanyl, it should be a life in prison because fentanyl kills. Okay. So, therefore, it's...
Sure. And I don't want to go wandering off all over the place here, but I do want to... What I want to get at is like, this is a big ticket item here. Okay, this is a signature gun control policy from the Carney government that it says will be all wrapped up neat and tidy in a year. But do you think it'll make communities safer?
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Got to wrap it up there.
No matter what side of the aisle you're on.
Okay, Ken. Thank you. Let's stop here. Wilf in Cambridge. I'll take your call next. You just have to be patient there. Okay. Thank you. Be right back. We're talking about gun control today on Talkback at 1-833-668-2577. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Let's go to Wilf in Cambridge on gun control. Hi, Wilf. Thanks for waiting.
How you doing, Rob?
Just great. Thank you for waiting.
Okay, I have never owned a gun. I've never fired a gun, which is a personal choice. Sure. I do not have a problem with legal certified gun orders. Leave them alone. Okay?
All right.
Do an analysis. Where are the majority of the guns coming used in crime? If it starts at number one, borders, then that's what you tackle. leave the gun owners alone that are legal gun owners. If they're coming across the borders, just systematically find out where they're coming from, and you tackle the top, then you go to the next. Now, in the meantime, we need to fix bail reform, minimum sentence. We need to do all that. That's the only way it's going to fix some things, in my opinion. Anyway.
Okay. So what do you think about this idea of spending $740 million on?
I think it's ludicrous. If they want to stop the illegal guns, then put it at the border. Spend that money at the border.
Okay. I will say again, just, for clarity's sake, the government says we are going to spend more money on the border, trying to, crack down on gun smuggling.
Your number one root cause, you go after your number one root cause first.
All right, sir.
And it'll save lives.
Thank you for sharing your opinion, Wilf. Really value that. Who are we going to next here? Larry in Nova Scotia. Hello, Larry. Thanks for calling, Larry.
Thank you. Thanks for having my call.
My
enjoy
pleasure.
your show. Just to let you know.
Thank you. Very kind of you. Thank you.
Very similar to the last caller. I do have a pal, and I do have a restricted. Seems like more and more rights are being taken away, but I do believe that the money shouldn't be spent taking, firearms out of a safe that are secure in somebody's house. I believe the money should be spent on law enforcement or patrols, even walking the beat. I do believe if you take the common criminal off the street, that's going to curb gun violence. Now, it might not eliminate it, but it'll definitely curb it quicker than taking a law-abiding citizen's firearm.
Okay. Yeah. So you would support things like tougher bail requirements, for example, mandatory minimum sentences, these sorts of things?
Those things, but also presence, law enforcement presence, like walking the beats in commercial areas or anywhere where there is gun violence. Like a presence curbs, putting a criminal that is at that level or reforming a criminal at that level will curb it, hopefully. There is obviously a higher level that's harder to control, but at least that money is doing something. Taking firearms that are never going to cause a crime from people, I don't see where that money's well spent.
Yeah, I kind of have this line: is it money well spent, or is it money well spent? Sounds like you're the latter. Is money well, spent? So I mean, $740 million. I keep coming back to this because it is such an eye-popping number, especially when the government is so deep in the red and it's looking for ways to save money, and there's so much need out there. Everybody has their own priorities, of course. $740 million.
But we know where this is going to go. We've
all wrapped up in it. All wrapped up in a year. I just wonder, will it have any impact at all on public safety and will we see a measurable reduction in gun crime in Canada? What do you think?
I don't think
so.
Okay. No, because we've gone through this before. We put gun control into place of licensing firearms, and that was by the Liberals many years ago. That blew well over budget, and it never stopped. And in the end, somebody was wise enough to say, this is not working, we just stopped it.
Okay. Thank you, Larry, for calling today from Nova Scotia. Good to hear from our friends in Nova Scotia today on Talkback, as always. And that's it for hour number one, hot hour. Let's keep it going with hour number two, gun control, our topic of the day. 1-833-668-2577. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talk Back. It's hour number two. We're talking about gun control today. The federal government, by way of the public safety minister in an interview with the Toronto Star newspaper, says it is going to spend $740 million on a gun buyback program for the 2,500 models that have been banned and deemed to be assault-style firearms. Government also says it's going to reinforce and expand the so-called handgun ban brought in while Mr. Trudeau was prime minister. We are just asking specifically on the gun buyback program, because it is such a centerpiece of the gun control effort from the Carney government, whether you think these gun control measures will make our communities safer and reduce gun crime in Canada. Yes, no, why not? 1-833-668-2577. That's our number. If you've never called before, just mention that. And we'll make your call a priority as we start hour number 2 of Talkback with Mick in Calgary up next. Thanks for calling, Mick. You're on the air. What's your opinion, Mick?
Hi, Rob. Nice show. Nice show,
Thank
Rob.
you.
I got a couple of questions for you. At what price? Who's going to set the price for them to buy in all my firearms and rifles and all that? Are they going to give me what they want or what I want?
The government says it will give you a fair price. That's all it's really saying. A fair price.
Yeah, because I'm just going to let you know one thing. I paid for one of my Glocks $1,500. They're going to say, what is a fair price to them? And it's not just the borders. A lot of these firearms are coming from overseas through containers. They got to do their job at the ports as well. They don't search everything. I'm a truck driver. I've been all over Canada, United States, piers, borders, and everything.
Right.
They don't actually do 100% job. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
To me, it's a waste of money. To me,
a waste
I've
of money.
I've never had a criminal record. I have, say if I owe the government $10,000 for my taxes of last year, so I pay that $10,000. So they're going to use that same money to give it back to me instead of putting it, going to give it back to me for my firearms instead of putting it somewhere that it should be put in for a better cost. Because you're never going to stop this, in my opinion.
Okay, but do you think it'll make communities safer, sir? Is it going to be an effective public safety measure? I get he's the public safety minister. This is his job, is to make our communities safer. He obviously thinks this is a worthwhile effort. They're committing almost $750 million to it. Do you think it will have any impact at all?
No. Our crime rate with firearms is not as bad as the United States. We're not crazy people here shooting up schools every second day. You know what I'm saying? But other people were saying, us people that have permits to carry all these firearms, we're not out there walking with them in our hands.
You're saying you're not the problem.
Illegals,
right?
No,
okay.
we
You're
are
not
the problem. Who holds legal firearms? We're not the problem.
All right.
Thank you. We use them for sporting, hunting, and everything else, right?
Sure thing. Hey, thanks, Mick, for calling. Yeah, good to hear from you and get your opinion. Danvir in Calgary as well today. Up next, Danvir. Hi, Danvir.
Hey, Rob.
Hi, Danvir. Yeah, what's your opinion here?
Yeah, it is a waste of money. So
waste of money.
To rob, it doesn't matter what class of firearm they have. It could be a kitchen knife if somebody wants to, decides to rob a store or whatever, right? So I don't think it's a very intelligent decision. First thing is why do a minister have that much money? Why doesn't he give that money to the police for better policing? Why does he have that extra money there?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, good question. It's a lot of money, isn't it? Well, I was even surprised by the figure in the paper today. $742 million is what they're budgeting for this over the next year or so.
The police all over the country, they have to write unnecessary the speeding tickets to get their budgets, and we spend this money, waste this money, right? I don't know.
Okay. Do you think it'll have any impact on community safety, though?
No, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what class of firearms somebody has. They can use a kitchen knife if they want to conduct a crime or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Danvir. All well and good. Is it West in Calgary? Is that your name?
Hello.
West? Is that your name? West?
Yeah.
West. Okay. Very good. Yeah. What do you think of this policy, sir?
Honestly, I think it's just the Liberals' left-wing agenda right up there with climate change.
Okay.
Nothing more, nothing less. They won't be happy until they ban every weapon, period.
Okay. Well, I mean, again, he's the public safety minister. It's his job. He sincerely believes it'll make our community safer. Do you think it will make our community safer?
No, it's ridiculous. I'm an Army veteran for 23 years. It's all started with a polytech thing, and it's never stopped. Just keeps
A
getting
coal
worse and
polytechnique.
worse.
Yeah. A coal polytechnique. Yeah.
Yeah. Bad.
Yeah.
You know,
yes.
I've been a weapons owner since I was 16. I'm 72 now. But I came back from Germany. I used to own a whole bunch of weapons and stuff. I just sold them all off because not much point in keeping them in a safe.
Okay.
Looking at them.
Okay.
You know.
Right.
So
would you have been impacted?
That,
would some of your guns fall under what this, the classification now, assault style firearms, or?
No, I don't think there's any reason to own assault firearm personally. I mean, I was in the military. I know what they do. But I mean, for hunting and stuff like that, what's next, right?
Well, one of the complaints from, say, gun owners groups, and even, First Nations and Indigenous groups, is that some of the firearms that they have deemed to be assault-style firearms, they just kind of look scary, but they're used for hunting all the time. They're actually very common hunting rifles, but they just look different.
I'm an expert on weapons. Like I said, I was in the military for 23 years.
Gotcha.
The rifles
okay.
So I know what I'm talking about, but the other problem is that a lot of people get weapons and they shouldn't hold them. But that's just my point of view. But I was president of the Rod and Gun Club here. I used to sign off on pistol licenses and that type.
I see. Okay. Well, I thank you for sharing your insight and your expertise today, Wes. It's great to take your call. Thank you. Be right back. Hour number 2 of Talkback, talking gun control today. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Talking about gun control today, in particular, the signature program from the Carney government. It certainly bedeviled the Trudeau government. The Carney government says putting it on the fast track. $740 million gun buyback program for the 2,500 models now they have deemed to be assault-style firearms. And the public safety minister is saying we're going to launch this soon, and it's all going to be done by the end of next year, $740 million later. We are asking, though, will it make communities safer? Will it reduce gun crime in Canada? What do you think? 1-833-668-2577. To Chris in Kitchener. Take some calls from Kitchener here today. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Rob. How are you?
Just great, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
What's your opinion?
My opinion is, first off, no. They've been trying to wrestle this subject for, 30 years after the Polytechnique. The firearm that was used was a Mini 14. I've owned that. I purchased that style of gun 10 years earlier. As far as I know, it's a mental health issue. You look at society these days. That's what I think it is. I mean, after Polytechnique, all my family, even my father, we had to go back and redo our firearms license and everything else, and they had the gun registry. What happened to that? $2 billion, and then they erased it. A lot of these
that was a big boondoggle, the original gun registry program.
After the guy, the person in Nova Scotia, I believe, now it's assault style because he got them illegally, and it's the illegal guns. It's not law abiding. I have to hold myself to a higher standard. If somebody gets violent with me, they take my guns. It's called walk away. And I find a lot of people these days, they're just, it's shocking how aggressive they can be. And I'm not going to say I'm going to defend myself with a gun, by no means, but you look at the shootings and stuff and the stuff that's going on. It's not the law-abiding people. It's the mental health of society these days.
Well, there may be mental health issues. The Toronto Police Association, again, that's the organization that represents the rank and file police officers in Toronto, says it's a lot of it is gang related, organized crime related, smuggling certainly an issue, right? And that we need stronger bail laws, we need stronger parole laws. You have to toughen up the criminal justice system.
Right. We have to get a handle on that. It's not the law-abiding citizens. So we've been trying this for 30 years with law-abiding citizens. How is that working out?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your call in Kitchener today. Let's stay there with Mary on the line from Kitchener as well. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Rob. Hey, Kitchener is a great place.
Gotta love Kitchener. Yeah, nothing wrong with Kitchener.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a gun. Never have, never will. My son has one, but our laws are quite strict for a person that wants a gun. He goes and does target shooting. He likes it, so there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to have your wife or your spouse sign the paper that you can have it.
Hello? Well, yeah, there's a thorough background check. They have to go through, right?
Yeah. So, I would like to know the numbers. Trudeau did this exercise, correct? The buying back.
It. Yeah, started it. Yeah, it's never really kind of taken off. So.
No, I know. But what I want is numbers. If the government wants to do this, they should provide us with stats on how many homicides, shootings, what have you, were with illegal guns. Tell me the number.
Okay.
Because unless you have a stat, you have no idea. So they should be smart enough to figure that one out.
Right.
Yeah.
Back your decisions up with some data. Right? Back your decisions up with some data. Oh, we've lost her. Okay. Thank you, Mary, though, for your call. Gun control, and specifically the gun buyback program for assault-style firearms, now estimated to cost $740 million. But will it make a difference in our neighborhoods, in our communities? Will they be safer? Will it reduce gun crime? Have your say. 1-833-668-2577 on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
On gun crime and the government's plan to spend $750 million on a gun buyback program for assault-style firearms. The government's words. Your thoughts on that, please. Richard is in Kitchener, staying in that area right now. Hi, Richard.
Hello. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Richard. Yeah, good to hear from you. What's your opinion, please?
Well, my biggest question is, why doesn't the government tell us exactly the reasoning for the buyback program? Because it's clearly not for public safety. Police, other authorities haven't joined the buyback program because it's not solving the problem. The problems are dealing with the border controls, keeping the illegal weapons off, increasing the criminal punishment. You do a crime, increase the penalties, or for repeat offenders. Anytime they do reports on criminal activity, it's clearly always with illegal items. So why are we tackling legal owners for something that is clearly not the problem?
Okay. It sounds as though you might have a experience in law enforcement. Am I off base there? Or?
No experience. I pay attention to what's being said, and I just don't like the smoke show, trying to fool the public and saying we're dealing with safety when we're not dealing with the root problems. I mean, it's great to say we're going to pull guns off the streets, but those aren't the ones that are the problem.
Right, and as you say, you have to do all the other stuff. You've got to get a handle on the situation at the border. You have to do something about the criminal justice system, whether that's bail reform or more severe sentences. The only thing is these are bigger items that the government doesn't want to tackle. So they're picking low-hanging fruit, shall we use the term, to gain public image that they're doing something. In the meantime, it's not going to solve the root problem. People are still going to have home invasions, which you now can't do anything about. The police will tell you put your keys on the door mantle so that they can take your car because we can't deal with the problems that are there. That's true. They did say that. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So let's deal with the problem.
Deal with the problem. And this is not dealing with the problem, in your opinion. I think we should stop here because if I bring somebody on right now, you'd only have about 30 seconds to comment. I want to give you all the time that you need to make your opinion known. It's been a pretty busy show on this one today. Maybe it has something to do with the price tag. What will be a year-long effort to buy back assault-style firearms. The government doesn't know how many there are. They say there might be 100,000. There might be 500,000, but it's going to be, the budget is $742 million for a gun buyback program for assault-style firearms. We're asking, a very specific question. Will it make communities safer and reduce gun crime in Canada? What do you think? Have your say. We'll be back right after the latest breaking news. I'm Rob Snow. It's Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We're talking about gun control and the government's plan over the next year or so to spend $740 million on a gun buyback program for what the government has called assault-style firearms. It's banned about 2,500 types of those firearms in the last several years. Harper in Calgary is up next. Thanks for waiting. You're on the air, Harper. What's your opinion?
My opinion is this is a plain wastage of money. The reason being, I have seen several times police had to discharge their weapons when they had an opponent holding a knife. So why is not knife declared dangerous? I just recently heard car people have to stop for pedestrians, guaranteed. But what about the bike people? They don't stop for anybody. Recently, a bike hit another lady who was walking on the sidewalk, and that lady has died in Calgary. So why we haven't declared bikes to be registered and insured mandatory? That should be done too, because it's not always a car driver's fault. So many deaths, I think more deaths happen due to car vehicle accidents. Why haven't we banned the vehicles yet? So it is a complete infringement on public rights to own whatever they want. The people who have registered vehicle guns, they don't go shoot each other. It's the criminals who are using them. So rather than catching every single criminal on the road, they're using the same approach every city police uses. Just give the tickets to speeders. Forget about who is taking a right turn on a red light, who is not stopping at a stop sign, who is not yielding properly at a merge sign, or who is not merging properly at a yield sign. They're just choosing the least resistant path to show that we're doing something for somebody. But basically, nothing is getting done.
All right. Okay, Harper, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I like the way you reasoned that there. Ken in Wyerton, Ontario, up next. Ken. Hi there, Ken.
Hi, good afternoon, Rob. How's it going
good to
today?
Hear from you. Just fine, sir. Thank you very much. What's your opinion on this, Bon?
Well, I think it's a big waste of money. I'm a legal gun owner, both registered and non-registered, both. anyways, I just doubt the money that they are claiming their budget as $742 million. I don't know where they come up with that. The last time they tried to do something like this was the registry, as you know, $85 million forecast, over $1 billion in costs for no real results. So that's just my opinion on that.
Yeah, if they say they plan to collect, they don't know how many firearms they're going to buy back. I mean, the estimate in the paper today is 100,000 to 500,000. If they collect 500,000, it'd be about $1,500 a gun or something. If it's 100,000, it'd be 7,400 a gun, I guess. But you have to take into account what's the administration costs of all of this. This will employ people in Ottawa. It'll employ people in law enforcement and everything else, I guess. So maybe this, we should take this, and this is a program that's already years behind schedule and millions of dollars over budget as it is. Maybe we should take the $742 million with a grain of salt, which is still, it's an enormous sum of money.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. And at this point, nobody from the law enforcement wants to collect these firearms. They're talking about getting the post office to be involved in that. They don't want any part of it.
They didn't want anything to do with it either. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know where they come up with these money things, but I mean, it makes it look good, like they're doing the proper thing for, public safety. But, most people know and agree that it'll have no bearing on public safety whatsoever, because people are not the problem. With firearm owners are usually not the problem. But it's just my opinion.
Well, I appreciate you sharing it, Ken. Thank you so much. Moving right along. We have Luke in Calgary is up next. Luke.
Hey, Rob, how are you?
I'm good, Luke. What's your opinion on this?
Yeah, I kind of agree with the last caller. I think they're just doing this to save face, just to say, oh, well, we're not tough on crime, but we're making it so that things are going to be safer for people. But in hindsight, I think it just makes things more dangerous. It makes the criminal know that he's safer going into your house.
Okay.
Essentially.
Okay.
Right? And yeah, $750 million. Like it's just a number that they pulled out of nowhere. I think it makes things more dangerous for everyone. I don't see who's going to take their firearms back. Right? Don't you just wait for the next government to come in?
Well, I don't know if that's even going to be an option. I guess we'll see how it all, rolls out. But you think it's kind of window dressing, that they want to appear to be doing something about the gun problem in Canada, the gun crime issue in Canada. And, this is a big dollar figure here. Makes them look like they're doing something.
I think so, because basically everybody that's calling in here is calling in with just a whole lot of common sense. Show us statistics. Show us just show us anything that makes sense. There's nothing here. There's nothing that says here's going to be the result net positive from doing this, because we have 1,000 murders a year from people using legal firearms. These assault style firearms are killing 1,000 people. There's nothing. There's nothing to back up what they're doing. They're just it's.
Yeah,
that's my nice argument for this, anyways.
Gotcha. Thank you. I mean, assault style firearms. I mean, it sounds sensible enough. I mean, who wants to be around assault style firearms? But the question we're asking is does it really make sense? Will it make your community safer? Will it really do something about the gun crime, the serious gun crime issue that we have in this country right now? Be right back with more of your calls on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
On the $742 million plan to buy back all the assault-style firearms in the country as a gun control measure. Your thoughts on that? Let's go to Vin in Airdrie today. Hello, Vin. You're up next on Talkback.
Hello, Rob. Thank you for taking my call. I'll answer
my
your
pleasure.
question right off. Thank you. I'll answer your question right off the top. No, it will not. make communities safer. And I think for all the obvious reasons that previous callers have stated. My biggest concern is the manner in which the previous Liberal government under Justin Trudeau and now Mark Carney, have approached the entire gun file, if you will. Governing by order in council, should be a concern to every Canadian. Without, using Parliament, without having parliamentary debate, without having data, facts, things of that nature, I think that can be concerning. I am a registered firearm owner. I have a PAL, law-abiding citizen. I have daily background checks, done by the RCMP. We are not the issue. It's clear. It's obvious. This is political, plain and simple. It has nothing to do with making communities safer and everything to do with making it look like they're actually doing something by doing nothing. They're appeasing a base, which in my opinion is extremely, and I don't mean this in a derogatory manner, but they are ignorant. When they talk about assault-style, firearms,
yes,
these individuals instantly go to, the Terminator, machine gun, 30-round mag, full auto, the whole 9 yards. Really, it's cosmetics, right? That's all it is. It's furniture. It is taking a wooden rifle and applying ergonomic pieces to it. So it doesn't change the mechanism. They all operate the same. We only use 5-round magazines in Canada. So this is the concern to me, is that, we have a government who, by all intents and purposes, has decided, if we just focus on the low informed, we can do whatever we want. And the real question becomes, those that are cheering this on, think about what happens afterwards, in my opinion.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is, let's assume every single firearm in Canada, legally obtained, legal property, is confiscated. Now there are no more legal firearms to be had in Canada.
Right.
So what happens now when the crime continues unabated? Because the real issues are not being addressed. What happens now? So that's one. Two, perhaps today they're taking away my legally obtained private property, but what happens when they come after something that you hold dear? Right? So we're allowing this to happen and turning a blind eye to it. And I think, it's time Canadians need to stand up and say, look, provide me facts. If you can prove to me that taking away my firearms will make my community safer, I will agree with you.
Right.
I
want to pick up on something that you said, because I've heard this before. If you don't mind, I've been told by gunners like yourself that many of the guns that the government wants to ban or has banned already and now wants to buy back, they're basically banned for no other reason than they look scary. When in reality, they really are just traditional hunting rifles. They work the same as traditional hunting rifles. They just look, I don't know, more intimidating or something. And that the government has really cracked down on these style of firearms when they work the same way as what I think people would picture a traditional hunting firearm to look like. Fair? Accurate?
Absolutely accurate and absolutely a fair comment. And there are several instances where there are ones on the list that are banned, but the exact same rifle is not banned. Why? Because it doesn't, using your words, it's not intimidating looking. And here's another reality check too. When's the last time an assault, right? Let's not even go there. It's a made up term, right? So let's just call it a semi-automatic rifle, because that's what it is.
Okay.
When's the last time one of those was used to commit a heinous crime in Canada? That was legally obtained, right? So Wortman... That was legally obtained.
Well, that'd be different. Well, Mr. Wortman in Nova Scotia, Gabriel Wortman, was a gun smuggler.
Absolutely.
He never even had a license ever in his life to own weapons.
No, prohibited, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and that guy, he had a stockpile. He had grenades and everything at his house. So, it's crazy. All right. I'm going to run. Thank you. You've made some great points. Let's take Brett's call here. Brett's been waiting for a while. Brett, you're up next, Brett, in Calgary. What do you think, Brett?
Good afternoon, Rob. Thank you for taking my call. I'm going to agree with a bunch of the other callers and say that I think they're overstepping a little bit, and they're kind of addressing an issue in the wrong manner. I don't know what the answer would be, but I know that legal gun owners are not going to be part of the problem. And an example that I can give would be, let's say this buyback program does go through. The legal owners who are going to be giving their guns back to the government obviously aren't going to be the ones using them for these crimes that they're trying to stop. So the people who are going to be committing these crimes, I think, would not have an intention of trying to give these guns back. They would either not be legal, they'd be hidden, or they would try to hang
right.
to commit these crimes. And as one of the last callers stated, the furniture put onto some firearms to make them more ergonomic or appear intimidating doesn't change the operation of them at all. It would be like putting a body kit on a vehicle that has a big engine in it or a small engine in it, but it looks like a big fast car. And that's kind of would you
like
be
putting a big muffler on a Honda Civic or something.
Exactly. Just because it sounds scary doesn't mean that it's any different than any of the others on the road there.
Right.
And yeah, I think a lot of the other callers have great points, and I agree that the government is not solving this issue and spending way too much money. I think even $1 spent on this program is too much.
Okay, thank you. Be right back with some final thoughts and some more of your calls on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We've been talking about the government's plan. It's a $750 million plan, the gun buyback program for the assault-style firearms, and we've been asking, will it make our communities safer? Will it reduce gun crime in Canada? Not many believers that it will, but let's ask Corey what he thinks. Corey's calling from Calgary today. Hi, Corey.
Hey, Rob, how's it going?
You're just fine, Corey. What's your opinion?
I think buyback the assault rifles, it just doesn't make any sense. It's not going to stop the criminals. Law-abiding citizens don't do the crime. I mean, the issue is we need to have harsher punishment for criminals. None of them are afraid to go to prison. That's the issue.
Okay.
Like,
so you would support, tougher penalties for people who commit crimes with guns, for example, mandatory minimum sentences, for example.
If prison was scary to them, like if you committed a crime or murder and you actually had a second thought about it, maybe thinking, well, I'll probably get the death sentence if I do this, but that doesn't happen here. There's nothing that they're really missing out on prison. I mean, what's in there? Gyms, libraries, leisure centers, schools, workshops, metal shops, movie nights, game nights, sports, gyms. Right? They get a butler to make their food. They're not afraid to go to prison.
I don't know. It's a pretty rosy picture of prison. I don't know.
It is. I mean, you see it on social media. They got cell phones. I mean, how is this prison? Scare the heck out of them.
Okay.
Make sure the punishment fits the crime, because the criminals aren't going to bring in their assault rifles. It's going to be law-abiding citizens like you and I that get our guns taken away. And we can't even protect ourselves.
You don't think it'll have any impact on community safety or the gun crime situation in the country?
No, because we're taking it away from the wrong people.
Taking it away from the wrong. It's a very popular opinion today, Corey.
I don't get it. It's all good.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, there are millions and millions of guns in Canada, and there are millions and millions of legal gun owners in Canada. The estimate is that more than 1 in 4 Canadian households has a firearm. 3 million Canadian households have at least one firearm in the home. Vast majority of those are long guns. And 70% of gun owners say they use them for hunting. Almost 20% say they use them for target shooting. 10% say that I just grew up in a household that always had a gun in it. There are collectors, that's about 8%. 5% of Canadian fire owners say, I own a gun for my own personal protection. Estimates of the total number of guns in Canada vary. 7 million or so. Maybe it's more than than 10 million, and it's thought there are slightly more than 1 million legal handguns in Canada. This program has had its problems, this gun buyback program. It really, the genesis was the Portapique massacres. The Liberals first announced a ban on 1,500 types of assault-style firearms. Now that's been expanded. It's 2,500 or so different types of those firearms. It announced there would be an amnesty, then another amnesty. The current amnesty was supposed to expire in October. Now that's going to be extended, and now they're saying it'll all be wrapped up in about a year. Even though the government doesn't really know how many firearms it plans or hopes to buy back, but yet they are attaching this target to it of $742 million. We'll see if it has any impact at all on the gun crime situation in this country. Thank you to everyone who took part today. A brand new topic tomorrow, more of your calls, and always the latest breaking news next on News Radio.